Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa tabi'in lahum bi ihsani ila yawm al-din. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to seek His face and seek nearness to Him, and to allow us to be sincere and not to turn the people their eyes towards us, or not to just be loving to be sum'ah, to be heard, or loving to be seen, and that He free our actions from any types of riyah or showing or or anything like that, and may Allah make us of those who seek our validation from Him and Him alone, and not to seek our validation on behalf of the people. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us sincere in this talk. We move on now to the next verse, or the next reason that Allah mentioned within these verses in Surah Mutathir that caused the individual to enter the hellfire. Allah said, وَلَمْ نَكُ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ. They were not from those individuals who encourage others to feed the poor people. There is a system that has been designed in Islam, that has been set up by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the well-off look out for those who are less fortunate. And that system has been in play through two means. One of them is the legislated zakat, which is one of the pillars of Al-Islam. And the other one is the legislated means of sadaqah. And the concept of sadaqah, as the Prophet ﷺ so eloquently put it in the hadith, that sadaqah is like water that puts out fire. That every time that we give sadaqah, and every time that we give from ourselves, that sadaqah is extinguishing our dhunub, our sins, and it's giving us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of those things that you want to do to free yourself from stinginess, and the best way to beat miserliness, which something Islam disprays, is by giving. And this is why we see in the biographies of the Salaf, especially the companions with Allah ta'ala alayhim, even from our mother Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, who would disperse and give out all of the wealth she had to people who was less fortunate. You would see many of them going around feeding people who were poor. Ali ibn Abi Talib, he used to have, when doing his khilafah, his reign, they say that he had two straps, like the marks from the straps that he would carry on his back, because at night he would go around dropping off food to each of the people's houses that he knew that was in need of it. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was such that he would not eat the meal that his wife prepared unless he invites someone who were poor to partake in the food along with him. Many of us, when we eat and have leftovers. We have leftovers in our houses, and we don't even go out and feed nobody. We don't even call nobody to come eat along with us. We might even throw it in the trash, not even understanding the ahkam dealing with that when dealing with the jinns. So many of us, when it comes to food and stuff, this is of not giving it and encouraging. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically mentioned that not feeding the people who are less fortunate is a means of entering into the fire. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us golden principles in terms of dealing with feeding. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He described the believers and some of the attributes and qualities they have in Surah Al-Ihsan, which is the 76th chapter of the Quran. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He mentions about these individuals. He says that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا إِنَّا نَخَافُ مِن رَّبِّنَا يَوْمًا عَبُوسًا قَمْطَرِيرًا. In these verses, Allah Jalla wa Ala, He describes that the people, when it comes to giving to the poor, there's a certain principle that we should have, and that is those who feed the poor people, they give the less fortunate something to eat. Okay? And when they give it to them, Allah mentioned that they give it in spite of the fact that they covet or love or want this thing. This is why you find in many narrations the Prophet ﷺ said that to avert the fire by just giving a tamar, a date, even giving charity, even if it's one or two dates. These narrations encourages us that even if you got little, and the best charity you can give is to give while you have a need for that thing that you give to someone else. You understand? This removes stinginess. This removes miserliness. This makes you a better person. And this also generates love in the hearts for the people who are less felt off. This also ward and protect you from what we call jealousy. You want to protect yourself from jealousy? Yes, there is du'as that you say protect yourself from the ayn. You know, we live in the city, everybody thinks it's the ayn. Brother, say mashallah. Sister, say mashallah. So when you see something, this is that, you get a drop, a stain on your white thobe or your black garment, get a little, somebody put the ayn on me. SubhanAllah. This is how we got so superstitious with the ayn that in this city, this is how we do it. And in reality, there are things that you can do that can protect you from jealousy. And one of them is making sure you feed the less fortunate. If you're looking out for the people ain't looking for you. It's simple, right? The man came by the Prophet ﷺ. He said that he praised the Prophet ﷺ for the garment that he had. He had a nice garment on. The Prophet ﷺ immediately stopped and took the garment off himself and gave it to the man. You think that man going to have any bad, ill thoughts about the Prophet ﷺ after that? No. Because he's removing those things from yourself. Also, it puts you in the mind of a zahid. It lets you know that you are not attached to anything in this dunya. You cannot walk through this dunya being attached to anything. If you find yourself attached to anything in this dunya, then you have a wrong perception of the dunya. And you have a deficiency in your iman. And you don't understand when the Prophet said, Kun fi dunya ka'annaka qareeb. You should not have an attachment to this dunya. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he said what? The believer treats the fulus, he treats the money, he treats the wealth like he treats the khala. The khala is a term that was used strictly for the laboratories, because back then it wasn't no bathroom or no sinks where you can wash your hand and everything in the same place. Back then there was just places where you can urinate and go to the bathroom, so they would call them the khala. So he says he treats his wealth or his money like the khala, meaning that he has a need for it, but he doesn't hold a special place in his heart for it. In other words, if you want me to bring it even more closer to home to what he's saying, is that you treat your money like you treat your toilet. You need your toilet, but you don't have love for it in your heart. You don't hold your toilet dear in your heart. Love, right? So that's the same thing that we should have the concept. You should never hold on to anything in this dunya. You hear me? The only thing you hold on in this dunya is your deen. That's the only thing. There's nothing else you should have attachment to in the dunya, even your children. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he showed us this in his character when he said to the people, he said if Fatima, right, radiallahu ta'ala anha, he said if Fatima, radiallahu ta'ala anha, was to steal something, the Prophet ﷺ would cut off her hand. Showing you that what? He loved his daughter, but the haqq is the haqq. Justice still will be maintained. He didn't have this false type of commitment to his children that he would let them get away with murder, or he would place the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the back burner while his daughter is something like that. He didn't allow them to do that. He stuck for justice because his attachment was to his creator. You understand that? Your attachment is to your creator. This is why you see Abu Bakr when he saw his father on the battlefield of Badr, and his father said, you know, I was avoiding you, son, when we was on the battlefield. I wasn't trying to come your way. But you know, Abu Bakr said, I wish I would have sawed you, because if I would have sawed you, I would have killed you. This is what allowed him to say that to his father. I'm not saying we encourage you to hate your father right now. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the only thing that can bring them to this point is because they didn't have this type of false attachment that we find ourselves today. This dunya, this capitalist society have created weaknesses in us that we should not have. We are needy. We feel entitled. We are spoiled. We are people who are helpless. We are people who need someone to wait on us. We are very dependent upon things. We are very discontented. This what this breeds. We are very unhappy because our desires are not fulfilled. Immediate gratification, microwavable success. This is what we're thinking. You're not ready for whatever comes your way. You're not. The moment your car breaks down, it's, oh Allah, why are you doing this to me? You turned your thoughts from yourself to Allah. I don't even understand how you got to that point, but you got to that point because you're so weak. You're weak. You go through any sicknesses, oh Allah, why me? Why me? Why not you? Who are you? Did you not do sin the other day? Why are you sinning just now? Or didn't you not do that? Or didn't you do this? Did you neglect that? Or did you not? Why are you not looking at yourself? You're not looking at yourself because you became so needy of the capitalist society that it created you in the mind of a rat. Just like that. Just moving. Constantly. Thinking everything's supposed to come to you because it was so-and-so had. It was so-and-so got. and not realizing that Allah Jalla wa Ala gives when He wants to give. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have hikmah and when He gives. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places blessings in what He gives. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of what He gives. Now understanding all of this stuff is what created you when you have anxiety and you have all of this stuff. I'm not talking about the different forms of anxiety. That's another talk and another time. There are true forms of anxieties out there that the experts talk about. But I'm just talking about just being anxious, period, just being anxious about something, feeling, just always jittery, just never settled. The believer heart is settled. You understand? The believer heart is settled. While the crowd is going wild, the believer is this. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said that the believer is the one who, when the people are asleep, he's up praying. When the people are laughing, he is silent. When the people are laughing, he isn't smiling. He's completely contemplating. When the people are talking, he's silent. You understand? Because he's the one who's relaxed. He's the one who understands he understands the point of relative desires. He sees the world for what it is. He sees people for what they are. When you work with knowledge and you move with knowledge and you have knowledge and you're content with knowledge, then you can see things as they are. You're not deceived or you're not tricked by any deception. So you feed those who are less off than you. Allah says in this verse, they feed them. They feed the one who, out of their love, out of their spite for it, He said they feed the one who is yatim, an orphan. An orphan in Islam, brothers and sisters, the Prophet ﷺ was an orphan. An orphan in Islam is a person who can be an orphan even if they have a mother. But it's someone who either lost their mother or lost their father at childhood. It don't have to be actually at childbirth, or someone who lost both of their parents. They don't have to lose both of their parents just to be an orphan. They can still have one parent and still be an orphan. And there are many verses and there are many ahadiths on the virtues of and the commands of taking care of those who are orphaned. And this is something that Islam always encouraged. Not sort of like what we see, and I'm not going to talk about it in depth with the crooked system dealing with the whole DHS system and stuff like that. Not what we see when people do that. Allah has prevented us from taking unlawfully from children and things like that are orphaned or even weak. We have to make sure we have balance even when it comes to that. Also, Allah mentioned not just that, He said, to feed the miskeen. And the miskeen is a person, as we said before, it can be a person with a job, a person who has some type of income, but the income still not sufficient enough. Where the fakir is the individual who has something, but the fakir is the one who doesn't have anything. He's destitute, and she or she is destitute, and they don't know where they're going to get their next food from. They don't have income coming in at all. Okay, so Allah says that out of His love, He feeds the poor, those who are miskeen. And sometimes the word miskeen can be used interchangeable with the word fakir. Okay, so I don't want you to get that mixed up. Sometimes the miskeen can be talking about the destitute as well. So Allah says the asirin, also the slave. Feeding the slave is something that is encouraged in Islam. Many of us, we should try to practice this. Each day when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you to eat, this is why you find hadiths in Bukhari and Muslim where the Prophet ﷺ said that one bowl of soup is good enough for two, that 2 bowls is good enough for 3, that, etc., showing you that there will be enough that's sufficient for someone else. Okay, we don't supposed to eat to our full anyway. And I feel guilty sometimes, when I eat sometimes, I should not feel full. We shouldn't eat to our full. You want to be righteous servants, you want to be taqi, as we were saying, you want to reach Jannah, then these are certain things you should do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. He's the best example. You have to take the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tayyib, so just mentioning the next verse, Allah says, now they feed these people, not to be seen, okay, not to be heard, not to remind the people of their generosity. And this is what I want us to understand. I don't want to take too long because I only got a little bit of time. They feed the people. Allah's going to tell you this condition, this principle. Whenever we're feeding someone or giving someone something, we need to understand this. It's not for Allah whenever you remind the people what you did for them. Okay? Whenever you give someone something and you're saying you gave it for the sake of Allah, then you should not remind them. There is a principle in Islam that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, that the person who gives, and one of the people of the 7 people who will be shaded from Allah Jalla wa Ala when there is no shade, is the one who gave, but his right hand doesn't know what his left hand does, or his left hand doesn't know what his right hand does. Meaning basically he gave and no one knows, and even himself at times can forget what he gave or who he gave it to. It doesn't even matter. He just, bang. You understand? No one the wiser. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is keeping account of what good he did. He's not giving it to be saying, yo, I'm the generous one, or remember I did that favor for you, can you do that favor for me? It's not like that. You understand? It's not like that. So it's important that we understand that as well. Also, Allah says in this principle, He said, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُوكُمْ. This is what they say. When they feed the poor people, they say, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُوكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. Now look at this. We only are feeding you to seek His face. The reason why we're giving you this is to seek Allah's face. This is the reason why we're doing it. لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We don't want no compensation, no return favor for doing this. Nor do we want even you to thank us for it. We're not looking for your thanks. If you give thanks, that's good etiquette from yourself. But if you don't give thanks, we're not looking for it. Okay? This is not what we're looking for. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he spoke about this verse. He says that من طلب الرزق من الفقراء أو الدعاء أو الثناء خرج من هذه الآية. He said whoever seeks from the poor when giving them something, he seeks some type of provision, so some type of compensation, whether he is asking them to make dua for them when they give them something. You know how many of us, when we give somebody something, we say, all I want you to do is make dua. Be careful. All I want you to do is make dua. Be careful now. Pay attention now. He says, even we don't seek, he said, whoever does this, seeking even dua from the individual. Okay? Now, it's different if you give someone something and they decide themselves to make dua for you. Not because you requested or asked it. They themselves decide to make dua for you, then that's no problem. But if you're seeking as a requirement or condition, or just for the fact that you give them something, then that means you have contaminated the fact that you gave it, quote unquote, for Allah. Because if you gave it for Allah, you're not looking for compensation. وَلَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاء. We're not looking for no jaza. Okay? وَلَا شُكُورًا. Nor are we looking for appreciation. So Ibn Taymiyyah is saying, if you're seeking for them some type of dua, or if you're seeking for some type of praise that you gave, oh, that's the so-and-so that gave me such and such. That's so-and-so that gave me such and such. Or you just want to say, oh, you a good man. Oh, you generous. Oh, you a good person. She's a good woman. She's a good sister. Blah, 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 blah. If you're looking for that type of validation or that type of gratitude, then he says, خَرَجَ مِنْ هَذِهِ الْآيَةِ. Then you are excluded from the people that are mentioned in this verse. You are excluded from that. You're not what Allah is talking about in this verse. They only give to seek the face of Allah. Do you understand that? Allah is going to pay you back. They only give because Allah is going to pay them back. And they know Allah is going to pay them. It's not like Fulan and Alan. I owe everybody in the dunya. I'm talking about right now. I still owe people money. You understand? People might be listening to me, I owe money. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that Allah is not like that. Whatever Allah is going to give you, you're going to get it full. Bottom line. And they know that. And they take comfort in that. Even if the person do them dirty, even if the individual do you dirty, you still don't remind them of the generosity of what you have done for them. If it's for Allah, I want you to understand that. It's how you know it's not. If it's not for Allah, it's for yourself. Because if you're looking for any compensation or any type of reward, then it's not for Allah, it's for yourself. But if it's for Allah, you're not even going to. It don't matter. The Prophet ﷺ, he was so trustworthy that his enemies can leave their belongings, their wealth, and their weapons with him, and he would not take it. Because it wasn't about him and them. You understand? It wasn't about him and them. It was about him being trustworthy. And that's what it's about, being trustworthy. Ibn Taymiyyah brought a good point from that. But I want you to understand something else now. Allah said they give it seeking Allah's face, and they don't ask for any reward or any compensation or any thanks or gratitude. But then look what Allah says after that. He says, Inna nukhafu. Look what they say. Why we don't want your compensation? Why we don't want your gratitude? Why we don't want you to make dua for us? Why we don't want you to praise us? This is why. Inna nukhafu min rabbina yawman abusan qamtarira. We do this because we fear our Lord in a day that's going to be difficult. Keeping the hereafter, keeping the day of resurrection, keeping that accountability always at the forefront. This is what the believer does. That's what keeps you in check. You don't gotta look at your brother some type of way, your sister some type of way, because they telling you tequila. What type of person you is? You gonna look at your brother some type of way, your sister some type of way, and get tough with them because they telling you tequila. No, you're supposed to be checked when you say a tequila, because the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal is supposed to stop you. The fear of that time you're gonna be brought account is supposed to stop you. The fear. That's why. Can't imagine a person praying correctly and you tell them a tequila and they feel some type of way. That must mean something wrong with the prayer, because if you really was praying the correct way, you would be more humble when someone tell you a tequila. Unless it's unjustified, as in the case when the man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he was the leader of the Khawarij, and he told Muhammad ﷺ, "Tequila, i'dal, be just, ya Muhammad." And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Woe to you, because in reality, I'm the most who's more have more taqwa on the earth than I." You understand? This is a haq statement. The Prophet ﷺ wasn't being arrogant against the fact of a tequila. You understand? It was unjustified for him to say a tequila. But if a person is telling you a tequila and it's justified for him to tell you a tequila, then you a tequila. Period. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the characteristics of the hypocrites in Surah Al-Baqarah, when it is said to them, a tequila, the individual puff themselves up with pride. They become, that's what we do. SubhanAllah. That's what we do. Wallahi, as it was mentioned from one of the Salaf, that if the Sahabas was alive during this time, they probably wouldn't recognize anything except just the prayer from us. I don't know what they'll recognize from us now. I mean, if they was alive now, I don't know what they'll recognize. It's just, it's real sad. It's real sad. And it's not like it's just bashing nobody. It's just that it's sad. It's sad, man. We really don't have love for each other. The basics of love is not even there. We base our relationship off of what we can do for each other. We base our relationship off of what benefit we are into relation to each other. It's all relative. It's not lillah. It's not lillah. Your brother crying, your brother hurting, you should be hurting. You should be crying. You seeing your sister in pain, you should be in pain. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. He said the believers are like, what? They're like one body. What do you think he was saying? If one part of the body ached, then all of the body ached. If you don't feel no type of way for your brothers being persecuted in any country they may be in, if you don't feel no type of way for your brothers here in this country or your sisters here in this country that are dealing with all types of stuff they're dealing with, you think they're not in the same America you in? They're not dealing with the same fitna you're dealing with? They're not dealing with homosexuality and lesbianism. They're not dealing with people teaching our kids sexuality in school. They're not dealing with kidnapping, raping, and murder. They're not dealing with plumbing and all that stuff you're dealing with. They're not even dealing with the same problem, whether or not they got to mix shoulders and rub shoulders when they job because they have to work with people who are non-believers, who are filthy in their attitude, their belief, and their characteristics. You think they're not doing that neither. So they ain't going through the same problems you're going through. You're the only one in the world that got the chip on your shoulder that you think that no one else is going through that? And you can't create a common bond because you know they're going through the same thing you're going through, so you create some type of relationship with them because you gotta recognize this type of pain that y'all going through? SubhanAllah. Islam does that. I get peeved every time I hear a Muslim sitting around talking about some self-help stuff, or talking about some self-talk stuff, or talking about this kafir this or this kafir that. Like, you're looking for every solution that the kuffar are looking for because they are discontented. But your deen is right in front of your face and it gave you every answer you need, but you're not even looking there. The only time you want to look at your deen if you want to get for you want to run out for land. I got her right here, girl. I was arguing with her the other day. Here go the proof. Sheikh Salih Fawzan said that the hypocrites, they argue, and the only thing they use the proof for is just the argumentation. I got the ayah and the hadith, here it is. That's all we do. We're going to go research the ayah, we're going to go research the hadith. Trust me, we're going to be Googling it up. We're going to be calling people, contacting the people, whether it's against our husband, whether it's against our children, whether it's against our co-worker, whether it's against our friend, whether it's on social media, whatever. How many of us really looking for the hadith so that we can implement it? Looking for the ayat so that we can implement it. Trying to get closer to Allah so we can be effective by it. I'm being real with this, man. This is why we are in the state that we're in, by the permission of Allah, because we are not being truthful in our actions. And feeding the poor people shows your character. What type of person you are. If you can give, in spite of the fact you may need or want or cherish or desire to someone other than yourself, it places you on a level of being good. This is why Allah encouraged the feeding of the poor in the first place. This is why. Train yourself. When you get ready to smash that meal out, say, you know what? Let me go over here and give $1 to this person. Let me go over here. Even if it's one person. Let me give it. Give that sadaqah. You got so many sins, wipe it off. Give that sadaqah. Don't be afraid of it. Give it. They said the Prophet ﷺ, they said Muhammad is giving like he ain't afraid of poverty. That's what they said about the messenger. They said the messenger of Allah ﷺ is giving like he's not afraid of poverty. Period. That's called detachment. That's what I kept talking about. Detachment. We got to graduate to a level of detachment. We cannot be attached to this world. That's detachment in its truest form. Ain't nothing in this world. The Prophet ﷺ slept on a mat. The king slept on polished beds. But the Prophet ﷺ was still higher than the person who slept on a polished bed. They cannot do nothing with you. Talk about finances, you be rich. Fast every Monday and Thursday. Live simple and don't buy the most expensive garments. Don't buy every gadget that come out. Watch how much money you be saving. Just buku cash is coming out. You just be saving and give charity and feed the poor and do all of these different things. You will be content. And you will have money. Not only you be content, you will also be financially employed. You will have money. But you won't have it because you're playing a capitalist society game, which is the rat race game. And you are competing with kuffar, who already, this is their paradise. And you forgot the whole goal in the ghaya is to get to the real ultimate happiness, because you thought you could find happiness here on earth. The only happiness you can find here on earth is in dhikr, as in dua, as in your deen. That's the only thing. Salat, dhikr. That's the only thing you're going to find happiness in. You can find love and enjoyment in your spouses. Don't get that wrong. You can find it with your children. Don't get that wrong. But then there are boundaries with that. Then there are conditions with that, because that spouse can go to the right, to the left. That child can go to the left. They can always be on the same board. They can always be trying to seek Allah's pleasure. You understand? But in the dhikr of Allah, never can go to left. The deen can never go left. It's always going to be straight. It's always going to be balanced. It's always going to be right. And it's always going to check you. It's either going to be for you or against you. And that's what it's going to do. And that's what we need. We need that realness in front of us. So we encourage everyone, inshallah ta'ala, try to be like those who are righteous by, feeding the people. And remember these principles. Do not seek any dua from a person that you give something to. Don't remind them of the generosity. Seek it only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's face. Don't ask for any praise or any praise you want from it or any compensation. And just remember that you fear in a day. You give because you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a difficult day coming ahead, that He's going to actually bring us all to account. So this is what we give it, and this is what shapes our character. The Muslim is the one who feeds, as the beautiful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he said, "Who amongst you from the day had fast?" Abu Bakr said, "I did." "Who amongst you from the day had fed a poor person?" Abu Bakr said, "I did." "Who amongst you had freed a slave?" Abu Bakr said, "I did." Good character. Everybody looking for good character. You want to have good character? To just do these righteous, noble actions, and this is how you attain good character. You know what I mean? This is what it shows. So inshallah, we're going to stop here, and then we'll do like the talk, and inshallah ta'ala, our brother Muhammad Munir will be coming on at 4:30 by the permission of Allah. He's going to close it out for the lecture. May Allah reward all of you who was able to catch. Like I said, you can go back. If any mistakes that I made, please inbox me or put it in the comment section. I'd rather you inbox me, inshallah. You can put it in the comment section too. I have nothing to hide. I'd rather be checked it if anything I said wrong. It's from the shaitan, and then also from myself. I also says correction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallahu khairan.